You can't make them an athlete, for example. You'll never choose that child, for example, to go to represent your country, for example, in the 100-meter sprint or something. There's some limitation there at the end of the day. But spiritually too, there's a significant threat which has now been posed to this offspring. Because of this significant, although the road to spiritual perfection is still open for the child, but he has been limited. He is at a disadvantage, but he can, with a strong will and resolution, he can overcome that. He may not overcome that. That's up to the child. What's undeniable is that a significant risk has now been given to this child. Since this potential is there, and this significant potential, I stress, spiritual threat has been granted to the child, Islam, as a precautionary measure, doesn't allow that child to enter professions where the salvation of the masses are at stake, like being a marja, for example, or being a judge, and maybe one or two other things. The child actually may acquire so much knowledge, and maybe stronger knowledge-wise than all the maraji and the judges. The potential is there. But Islam, as a precautionary measure, couldn't risk or compromise the salvation of people. And since this risk is significantly negative, this being born out of wedlock, there's nothing to do with the child has nothing to blame, the route to the child's spiritual perfection is still open, but Islam says you can't enter those professions. You can think of physical examples where certain physical defects, you can't enter certain professions. The same applies in the spiritual realm. In any case, the thing is that our parents, grandparents, and so on and so forth, there's 1,001 different parameters which are at play in relation to the procreation of that offspring. Now, I want to mention one of those parameters now in some detail. Ibn Sina, who was a very important scholar in Islam, throughout Islamic history, he's one of the very important scholars. And he was, if you like, a mujtahid in not only fiqh and usul and even the seminary sciences, but also in the physical, natural sciences. He was a specialist in its own right. His books were taught in the West until 1 or 2 centuries ago. But his books are still being researched in the West. He has written something in relation to breastfeeding. Now, I want to go through this Arabic text and translate it at the same time. And look at, it's only one parameter. How this one parameter has an effect on the social well-being, the spiritual well-being of the child. Now, this is Ibn Sina talking. It's not why. I'm not saying this is 100% true, but it has elements of truth to it. He says, أما كيفية إرضائه وتغذيته, concerning the manner of breastfeeding and feeding the offspring. فيجب, it's necessary. It's not canonically necessary from a Sharia point of view. It's just an instruction. It's necessary أن يرضع ما أمكن بلبن أمه, to breastfeed that much which is possible from the mother's milk. فإنه أشبه الأقضية بجوهر ما سلف من غذائه, because this milk is the most similar thing to that which used to be the food of the offspring. وَهُوَ فِي الرَّحِمِ, whilst the offspring was in the womb. أَعْنِي تَمْثَ أُمِّ, i.e. the blood of the mother. This milk is the most similar thing to that which used to be the food of the offspring when it was in the womb of the mother, i.e. the blood. This milk is the most similar thing to the blood. فَإِنَّهُ بَعَيْنِهِ, this blood per se, هُوَ الْمُسْتَحِيلُ لَبَنًا, it's converted to milk. وَهُوَ أَقْبَلُ لِذَلِكَ, and this milk is most befitting for the purposes of this nutrition. وَأَوْلَفُ لَهُ, and it's the most closest thing, most familiar thing to the child. حتى أنه قد صح بالتجربة, and it's reached this point that evidence or experience has proven that أن إلقامه حلمة ثدي أمه عظيم النفع جدا في دفع ما يؤذي. Even the grasping of the offspring's mouth upon the bosom of the mother, only the grasping, not even the breastfeeding, the suckling, even the mere grasping is of mighty importance, and it eliminates many of the harms encountering that child, the mere grasping. وأما شرائط المرضعة فسنذكرها, concerning the prerequisites, not the canonical prerequisites, concerning the prerequisites of the mother who is breastfeeding, the woman who is breastfeeding. We shall mention them later. وَنَبْدَأُ, but we'll start بِشَرِيطَةِ سِنَّهُ. We'll start with the prerequisite of the age of that woman who breastfeeds. فَنَقُولُ, and we say, أَنَّ الْأَحْسَنَ أن يكون ما بين 25 سنة إلى 35 سنة. The best age to breastfeed is between 25 and 35 years of age. This is Ibn Sina's own experience. In reality, it may be something else. It may be 15 to 30. I don't know. This is his own findings here. فإن هذا هو السن الشباب وسن الصحة والكمال, because this age is the age of youth, the age of sound health, and the age of perfection. وأما في أخلاقها, but concerning the woman's ethics. Now this is the main point. That was just a preface to this. Concerning the woman who's breastfeeding, concerning her ethics. فأن تكون حسنة الأخلاق, she has to be of decent ethics. ومحمودتها, she has to be of praiseworthy ethics. بطيئة من الانفعالات الرديئة, she has to be delayed, slow. In what? She has to be slow in being susceptible to negative behavior. She shouldn't be of the type that becomes very susceptible to vicious behavior and unethical behavior. No. If she's surrounded by unethical women, for example, she doesn't become susceptible to that kind of behavior quickly. She's strong. It takes time before she gets affected. She doesn't easily become negatively affected. بطيئة من الانفعالات الرديئة. Then he gives examples. من الغضب. For example, anger. She doesn't become angry quickly. والغم. Disappointed, depressed. Not clinical depression, but you know. She doesn't become depressed quickly. والجبن. Cowardice. She doesn't become a coward quickly. وغير ذلك, and other negative traits, other vice. فجميع ذلك, all these vices, يفسد المزاج, it ruins her constitution, bodily or spiritual. It ruins it. وَرُبَّمَا أَعْدَى بِالرِّضَى. And this ruining of the constitution can be transmitted أَعْدَى بِالرِّضَى, by means of breastfeeding. Through the milk it can be transmitted. وَلِهَذَا نَهَى رَسُولُ اللَّهِ. And because of this, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam, نَهَى عَنِ اسْتِظْهَارِ الْمَجْنُونَ. He prohibited, not canonically, but he advised against using women who are insane, for example, to breastfeed. It will have an effect on the child. The potential is there. You see how important the concept of milk is here. Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam, knowing of the event of Karbala, procreated with a particular agenda in mind for that day in the marriage of al-Baneen alayhi salam. He said, has to be from Bani Kalab, the woman. Has to be a fighter. You see, he was preparing for the procreation of Abbas alayhi salam. This is an important point. We have to do that. Now, Amirul Mu'mineen alayhi salam in one tradition has said, "Unzuru man turdi'u awladakum." Observe carefully who is breastfeeding your child, your offspring. فَإِنَّ الْوَلَدَ يَشُبُّ عَلَيْهِ. Because the child will be blended with the attributes of that woman. Observe this carefully. You're shaping the child. Imam Baqir alayhi salam has said, "Istardi' liwaladik bilabanil hisan." Breastfeed your children with the milk of those with decent ethics. وَإِيَّاكَ وَالْقِبَاحِ. And refrain from this breastfeeding through those who have attributes of vice. Then he gives a code, a very important code, 1400 years ago. فَإِنَّ اللَّبَنَ قَدْ يُؤَدِّي. Because milk, it transmits. You see? It's not only a bodily transmission, but even spiritual. وَإِيَّاكَ وَالْقِبَاحِ وَعَلَيْكُمْ بِالْحِسَانِ. There's nothing to do with the bodily aspects here. Even spiritual attributes, mental attributes. إِنَّ اللَّبَنَ قَدْ يُؤَدِّي. It can be transmitted through milk. It's a principle. It's a code. عَلَيْكُمْ بِالْوِضَاءِ مِنَ الدَّعُورَةِ. I enjoin, also from Imam Baqir, I enjoin that the breastfeeding mother be in a state of wudu when breastfeeding. فَإِنَّ اللَّبَنَ قَدْ يُؤَدِّي. Verily milk transmits. You see? See, there are 1,001 different parameters that all have a role in this shaping of that procreation. Okay, now that's one point. The next point, these are all linked together, but the next point is this, that the Sharia, the halals and the harams, the wajibat and the muharramat, where are they extrapolated from? Are they just conventional, arbitrary matters? Or are they based on something from which they're extrapolated from? Here in Islam we believe that Islamic law, the obligations and the sins, the legislation in general, they're extrapolated from the laws of nature, the laws of the cosmos, they're not just conventional do's and don'ts willy-nilly. It's based on nature, or based on whatever is. I'll just give one example of that. Amir al-Mu'mineen has said, لَيْسَ شَيْءٌ تَغِيبُ أُذُنَاهُ إِلَّا وَهُوَ يَبِيضُ. Whatever creature whose ears are hidden, they lay eggs. وَلَيْسَ شَيْءٌ تَظْهَرُ أُذُنَاهُ إِلَّا وَهُوَ يَلِدُ. And whatever creature whose ears are apparent, can be seen, they give birth to offspring. Now someone may ask, what about the whale, for example, or where the ears are hidden, but it's a mammal. Here maybe it's only in the terrestrial realm, and even with the whale we have to see exactly how the ears are, but here maybe it's in reference to the dry land. Maybe ears in marine life has another ruling. It can't be outside or something. I don't know. I haven't researched this. But as a result of the way the ears are positioned, there's a relationship between that and their giving birth, either laying eggs or giving birth to their offspring. You see, there's a link here. Now, once someone came to the Imam, that was just to have an understanding of the principle. Once someone came to the Imam and he said, look, we encounter eggs in the jungle. How would we know if these eggs are from halal meat animals, making it permissible to consume, or if the eggs are from haram meat animals, making the eggs impermissible to consume? Here the Imam says, Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, مَسْتَوَى تَرَفَاهُ فَلَا تَأْكُلْ. If the two ends of the egg are uniform in size, don't eat. This don't eat is part of legislation. What is this don't eat based on? The law of nature. The two ends of the egg. How are they? If they're uniform in size, don't eat. Meaning it's of a haram animal. وَمَا اخْتَلَفَ تَلَفَا. But if the two ends of the egg are different in size, like cone-shaped or tapered, if you like, فَكُلْ, eat it. It's from a halal animal. Haram meat animals produce this form of egg structure, don't eat. Halal meat animals produce this form of structure, eat. See, legislation extrapolated from the laws of nature here. That haram meat animal is a haram meat animal. And being a haram meat animal, it transmits haram attributes to the offspring. And then we're told not to eat it. The reason foods, some animals are haram to consume, some animals are halal to consume, is this. The pig is haram to consume because you'll acquire pig attributes. Predators are haram to consume, the wolf, the tiger, the lion, because you'll acquire predator attributes. Even if an animal is not a predator but has predator instincts, it's haram to consume. And that's why the rabbit is haram to consume, for example. The reason why the cow, the sheep, the camel, it's okay to consume, because their attributes are inert, neutral. It doesn't really, they don't have anything specific which can specifically harmful, like the wolf has, for example, which can be passed on to the person, or like the pig has, for example, or the dog has. But even with those animals, if you eat a lot of meat, and in the traditions, one has to have little meat, not too much meat, because then you may become inert too, like those animals, in your sleeping and in your behavior, being. So those haram meat animals, they produce an egg of a certain nature. Don't eat. Halal meat animals produce eggs of another shape or size. Eat. So legislation extrapolated from the laws of nature. Or another tradition, مَا كَانَ مِنْهُ مِثْلُ بَيْضِ الدُّجَاجِ فَكُلْ. If the egg is like the egg of a chicken, eat. The egg of the chicken being cone-shaped, being tapered, that's okay. Now, snakes, for example, their eggs long and uniform, the sides are uniform. Don't eat, it's from a snake, has snake attributes. Sharia says don't eat it. And other reptiles, their eggs uniform, don't eat. But with sparrows, nightingales, those things, the eggs are cone-shaped. It's okay to eat. Then it's interesting, amongst the birds which are halal to eat, some najis consuming birds, their eggs are, even though it's permissible to eat, but their eggs are less asymmetrical than other birds. You see, they just consume najasa. It has an effect on the eggs. Some birds, for example, who live on the cliff very high up, their eggs are more oval shaped than other eggs. You see, diet, place, all these things have an effect on the eggs, on the offspring. And the same applies to human beings. When they conceive, how they're conceiving, their thoughts. Are their thoughts like snakes? Are their thoughts like pigs or wolves? Or are they real humans who are conceiving? Some people can have the attributes of animals. They may be predators as a result of their sins. Then Ayatollah Hassanzadeh sums it up very well. All this was from one of his books in relation to Lady Fatima. He says that the ultimate wisdom in marriage is to establish a human form, not merely to satiate one's needs. Permanent marriage isn't to satiate one's needs. There's something else for that. Permanent marriage is to procreate a true human, not phenotypically the external side. You want to shape a true human at birth with those positive spiritual attributes, shaping its destiny in a positive way. But if you don't care in relation to conception, and you consume haramly, you earn haram, you speak haram, you think haram, even though you were born, you married according to the Islamic contract, and you gave birth in wedlock, and the child looks like any other human being, and is of legitimate birth, but spiritually it will be of illegitimate birth. You've given rise to a snake as a result of how your actions were, to a predator. God knows what will happen to that child. The ultimate wisdom in marriage is to form a human at birth, not the physical one. That spiritual potential has to be given. This is the wisdom behind marriage. Okay. I'll finish there. Just one last point. Inshallah, from tomorrow I will do zikr musibah, but just one point. because it's in relation to this. They asked Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, how could that person, I won't mention the name, there's no need, how could that person beat Lady Fatimiyya alayhi salam? It takes a lot to beat someone like Lady Fatimiyya. The offspring of the Holy Prophet, the birth of Lady Fatimiyya, what the Holy Prophet did 40 days before that, what Lady Khadija did. Pure thoughts, pure actions. A ma'soom child, Lady Fatimiyya alayhi salam, for a number of years, she lived purely, thought purely, from moment to moment, had mi'rajes and so on and so forth. It doesn't make sense for someone to beat such a person. This was asked to Imam Sadiq alayhi salam. The tradition is in Bihar al-Anwar. Then Imam Sadiq said, look at the genealogy of that person. Look at the parents, the grandparents. Look at what happened. You see, today's lecture was on this. And then he goes into the genealogy. And what happened was this. Now you have to follow this carefully. I would need a board to explain it for simplicity's sake, but this is quite difficult to explain. Abdul Muttalib, who was the grandfather of the Holy Prophet, had many slaves. When Islam came, slavery already existed. Islam did everything to get rid of slavery through the Sharia. Did everything to free slaves. At least in that part of the world, slavery was eventually eliminated because of Islam. Whereas in other parts of the world which didn't have Islam, slavery went away later. He had many slaves, Abdul Muttalib. One of them wasn't very pious and went to pasture the cattle, and another slave passed by. Now once, it was a female slave that Abdul Muttalib had. She wasn't a pious woman. She went to pasture the cattle, and in the valley another slave passes by, male, who also wasn't practicing, and they become intimate. The woman becomes pregnant. Abdul Muttalib finds out. Now this was out of wedlock. He's very embarrassed. But since Abdul Muttalib was very kind, very generous, and so on and so forth, gives money to that woman and say, just go away now. Because you've done something which is totally embarrassing. So now the woman has a male offspring. The offspring of that encounter was male. So the mother and this male child, they go off another place. 15, 16 years on, this male offspring, who now is 15 or 16, becomes intimate with the mother. And they produce a female offspring. Now being totally embarrassed about this, because this is mother and this is incest, they send the female offspring to be nurtured by another family, and they just want to forget the whole thing. This female offspring is now being raised in another family. That 15 or 16-year-old male offspring who was born out of wedlock, 15 years on, now is 30, passes by a house and sees that female offspring, which is his own daughter, but he doesn't know, and asks for the girl's hand in marriage, and they marry. You see, look at it's becoming messy now. The offspring was a male offspring, and that offspring was the one of the people who hit Lady Fatima. He had to go under those kind of things. Imam Sadiq alayhi salam, look at the genealogy and you'll get the answer. وصلى الله على محمد وعلى آله.